Hello Internet, I'm Stealthweasle01, and this is my first video to kickstart my new series called Overanalysis, a show where I do what I do best. Look at something in way too much detail, way deeper than anyone thinks I should. So, I'm starting this off with a series that has made a police box into everything from t-shirts to bookshelves to bed sheets. Some of this stuff sounds crazy, I know, but I assure you, TARDIS cake is not a lie. That's right, it's Doctor Who. Now, if you've seen the title of this video, you're probably thinking I'm joking or crazy or something. It is a little confusing. Well, I'll explain it hopefully, but I'm going to say this right now. I'm not a Whovian. I've probably only watched 10 episodes of Doctor Who, and I think all but one of them had to do with the Daleks. But in all that time, 9 episodes, I've never seen a Dalek really truly get angry. Now, I'm sure that somebody here has already started typing. Somebody's saying I'm wrong, I haven't watched enough of the show, whatever they may want to say. But this isn't about what I actually have watched, it's about what I haven't seen in 9 episodes. And also, just because something appears angry doesn't mean it is. Now, the show itself states that the Daleks are incapable of feeling emotion, except hatred, of course. But things like that are countered in the episodes like Doomsday, where the Dalek is clearly afraid just at the mention of the Doctor. Does this prove Daleks can feel emotion? Actually, no, not even close. But I do have a theory that not only lets them hunt down the Doctor and still fear him, and the best part is they don't need any emotion. Now, I'm not intending for this show to always be a theory show, but this one I have the theory all lined up, so I'm gonna tell you all anyway. First off, I'm gonna tackle the fear the Daleks have for the Doctor. Interestingly, fear is not actually an emotion. I did about two and a half hours of research on this, and I found 2 distinct types of emotion. For lack of a better terms, I call them survival and sentient emotions. Now, survival emotions are exactly what the name suggests. Honestly, they're really just instincts. That's the actual word for them, common tongue. But they help you keep alive. Examples are the fear, disgust, anxiety. The actual reason you feel disgust is because if you see something rotting, it's the instinct that tells you that it might be poisonous from its time rotting there, or there may contain parasites or something else that could hurt you. Fear and anxiety, 2 other major instincts, both warn you about danger. Now, you may be asking what this has to do with Daleks. Well, the answer to that is that every living creature should have at least most of these instincts to have helped them survive. In fact, there's scientific studies where they inject animals with something that apparently shuts down their instincts of fear, and those animals don't survive very long when put into a cage with a predator. They just stand there instead of run. Point is, though, survival emotions help you survive, but you don't actually need true emotions to feel them. So, kind of a theory here, but in that case, neither would the Daleks. Now the question becomes, why do the Daleks fear the Doctor? Well, I don't have true proof to that. That's why I only call this thing a theory. But I think it's not truly just the Doctor they fear. It's probably the entire Time Lord race as a whole. But that one's a little loose. I'll come back to all that later. Now, on to hatred. Hatred is the other type of emotion, sentient emotion. Sentient emotions are truly what you would call emotions. Anything that doesn't have to do with survival, positive or negative. Joy, inadequacy, depression, satisfaction, anger, and even trust are just a few examples of these emotions. It doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, they are truly just emotions. Now, here's a minor explanation before I connect this to the Daleks. There's a thin line between sentient and survival emotions. Sometimes you actually can't tell the difference. That's because that all sentient emotions that you feel are really just based in survival instincts. You can hate someone for being stronger or smarter than you, but that could also be just because you feel a little anxious, threatening feeling that they might be trying to hurt you. Love is based on lust. I hopefully don't have to explain it, but I will anyway. And it's the instinct to find a good man or woman to have offspring. Love is pretty much a much deeper part of that, but lust itself is instinct. The only true blur I can think of between them is fear. Instinctively, fear is its survival. It triggers the fight or flight response and gives you the boost you need to run or disable anything that stops you from running. Emotional fear is thinking about something to the point it triggers the fight or flight, but usually without threat present. The blur is, if you think the threat is present but it's not, then is that because you thought about it or because you think it's there? I hope I explained that well enough, but let's just get back to the Daleks. Now, if the Daleks are emotionless, then sentient emotions are the kind they couldn't have. So, they have been shown to have no concept of love, beauty, or depression, or even fun. So why would they be able to feel hate? There's a couple of answers to this, but they all come down to they probably shouldn't be able to. With humans, happiness and depression are actually caused by the same thing, or more specifically, the lack of something. There's a chemical in your brain that will cause happiness, and in large amounts, make you a generally happy person. Sadness is if that chemical stops, and depression is the lack of that chemical over a long period of time. Now, I could go on, I could explain how when you're a happier person, it makes you crash harder when you get sad. But the point is, for humans, most negative emotions are really just a lack of the positive equivalent. But Daleks are not human. And more importantly, I likely don't have idea of what I'm talking about anymore because brain chemistry is not something I ever excelled in. Human answers don't matter, though, because Daleks are not human. So, why can they only feel one emotion? Likely answers, DNA mutation. Maybe a Cyberman inhibitor chip or something similar? Well, the answer is actually likely no to both, in my opinion. For DNA, that's pretty much guaranteed a no, because emotions are not a part of your DNA, and neither are your instincts. You can actually learn an instinct. It's not as simple as just having the base instincts, but have you ever heard of a story or seen a veteran dive to the ground just because somebody started popping off a few small fireworks? That's because they're probably thinking they're avoiding bullets, except they just did it so fast they didn't even realize it. So, DNA is likely not an answer. In fact, I'm just going to go out and say that it's probably not. The Daleks do have an inhibitor type of thing of sorts. It's called the Cortex Vault, but it's not linked to their emotions, but really more to their memory. It prevents them from remembering any un-Dalek thoughts to prevent the species from advancing from the murderous killing machines they are. This was actually once disabled on a Dalek due to a crack in its core. I'm pretty sure most of the people watching this know what I'm talking about. That Dalek got a concept of beauty, and even stated the Daleks are evil. Does that necessarily translate to emotion? It's up in the air. But while the idea could remove emotions by extension to their memories, that would also likely block any memories that would anger the Daleks and thereby block hatred in the process. The Dalek Rusty, the one with the core damage I mentioned, showed signs of anger, but no other Daleks ever have. Whether it can block emotions or not, I'm just going to say I don't think it's possible to block all but one. That makes no sense. Now, on to the actual theory part of this that isn't just countering what the show has already said. The explanation to have the appearance of hatred and fear, the one I say that works without emotion. Now, the first part of this theory is the Daleks don't just, quote, hate. I'm just saying it's not really hatred. But they don't just hate the Doctor, it's the Time Lords as a whole. Another major thing is why do the Daleks want to be the only sentient life in the universe? That's because they think they're better than everything else. And yes, it's possible to think you're better than someone. I probably don't have to explain that to anyone here. But people seem to be horrified by the fact they're willing to kill off thousands upon thousands of people. Well, let me explain what the Daleks are doing. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, is there a fly where you are? Hold on. You go ahead and swat that. I will wait. Did you do it? Whether you did or not, though, I'm sure you have at least one time in your life, so guess what? You're now as bad as a Dalek. And to those people who have literally never harmed a fly, good job. I'm applauding you. But jokes aside, that's what Daleks do from their point of view. They exterminate. They're exterminating insects. The Daleks don't really think you're worthy of humanity, and they kill you. I don't know how to describe it. Point is, you're not important enough to live. Strangely, this also means that Daleks are not xenophobic, as some might state. They actually don't fear or dislike many other races. They're just not Daleks, and thus don't have the right to live. But that's completely off track. Now, continuing that insect analogy, what happens if that insect escapes you, or just hurts you or causes you to hurt yourself by slapping yourself in the face? Now, that probably pisses you off. Now what about a whole race of those insects? In the Daleks' mind, that's the Daleks versus the Time Lords. The Time Lords have been able to successfully fight, and thus the Daleks are, their quote, hatred for the Time Lords is the fact that they have fought back. Now, I'll get to the true point behind that later. But how do they appear to fear without emotion? That's a good question. It's actually an easy one, though. The Daleks have shown fear, but not for long. Maybe I just haven't watched enough, but I haven't seen a Dalek afraid of anything that wasn't either a direct and present threat, or it was only for a second, which could have just been instinctive fear before the Dalek's mind took over and it returns to normal. The question should really be, what are they remembering that scares them? I've been told that the Daleks have a shared or some kind of instant memory, where they can remember anything the other Daleks have seen. I'm not sure if it's possible at all, and I haven't seen any proof of instant access to any other Dalek memory, but I can understand if they have the ability to send a signal to a database and have the memory sent to them. So, if the Dalek hears the Doctor's name, and they were to get the memory of what the Doctor has done to other Daleks, wouldn't that be a lot for them to fear out of nowhere? I don't know about you, but I've seen the Doctor, well, not exactly the Doctor, but a human copy of him commit genocide on the entire race. He did it with a smile. If genocide, even to the Daleks, isn't enough to freak you out, then you should literally fear nothing. Because the only thing I can think of worse than that makes what the Daleks do look childish. But I'm digressing again. This instant memory could apply to anything they fear, but if just one Time Lord can nearly wipe out the entire race, then what did the entire race do to get marked as enemies of the Dalek forever? I don't know, but if they could be remembering and afraid of that. Now, that covers both hatred and fear, to some extent. But then why do they keep attacking Earth? Going back to the insect analogy for a second, the Daleks don't like other races because they're fighting their great superior race. And the humans have beaten them several times with the help of the Doctor. That might be why they keep coming back to Earth. There's one reason behind the, quote, anger towards humans or any race they haven't wiped out. Could be because they couldn't wipe them out. This is probably the strangest answer you might have ever heard. The best explanation I can think of is this whole thing the show writers call hatred is nothing more than hurt pride. Think about it. The Daleks, they're always saying how they're the best, how they're the great masters of the universe. If their pride was somehow hurt, doesn't it make sense that they'd want revenge? Now, for all of you who are saying that pride is an emotion, actually, despite what you may think, pride isn't an emotion. It's actually your upbringing and conditioning. It's about what you're taught as a child. It's what society's always saying. Even having important parents can make you think you're better than someone. But pride is the reason some people can be rich snobs, why popular kids may look down on cool ones, or why someone might want to continue their family's legacy or own their family store. Now, I could have used the excuse that the Daleks wanted revenge to cover both hatred and fear, but pride does both of those. Actually, it pretty much covers everything. It's brought up to think you're the greatest, and anything that beats you and anything else doesn't deserve to live. Those things that manage to beat you would be a big hurt to you. I'm going to go off on a bit of an example rant, but it's all about how someone was brought up. It's what they think about themselves and what society taught them to think about others. And if you think that's impossible for this to work on an entire race, then I will prove it on a slightly smaller scale. Ask yourself this: who does your country hate? Figure out your answer yet? For mine, I live in the United States. A lot of people here hate terrorists from the Middle East. Heck, I don't know any country or person who wouldn't hate someone willing to kill someone else. But some people hate people from the Middle East without knowing if they're Al-Qaeda or not, without knowing if they're terrorists or not, without knowing anything about them, who they are as a person, what their interests are. Heck, this is bringing to mind a video by Gaijin Goombah called Gaming and Middle Eastern Hatred, and I'll leave a link for that if you want to see that. My point here is people can hate without knowing anything about them, who they are, or where they're from. I'd like to bet the store owner Gaijin talks about has never seen a Middle Eastern person, let alone a terrorist. Pride works in the exact same way. It can do the exact same thing. It can actually do the exact opposite thing. Let me reverse the point. It can also cause you to have a low opinion of yourself. If you don't know anyone like that, then you've probably never walked into a school. People who are bullied in school can have a low opinion of themselves. Hell, some bullies have a low opinion of themselves, and that's why they bully to begin with. And then there's also some people who always think they're better than everyone else, but that's not the point I mention here. Now, this does work on a country-sized scale. I'm going to bring up a topic that most people in the US don't feel comfortable talking about. But you know what? I don't feel uncomfortable about talking about this stuff. In fact, I think it needs to be talked about. But for this, slavery. Yeah, I said it. Some slaves were treated lower than humans. The common white folk could treat them however they wanted, but their owners could treat them like the absolute dirt, or some treated them like family. I don't have exact numbers on anything, because obviously I can't, but I'm sure plenty of slaves thought themselves as worthless and wanted to die. It works in high schools, why wouldn't it work back then? That's the reverse point. But let's get back to it. You can be raised to think something about someone or someone else, whether it's that they're better than you, that maybe you think they're a liar, or in the Daleks' case, that your race is better than everyone else. It's all possible. The quote anger Dalek feels towards the Time Lords could be a similar conditioning, but since I don't think Daleks can feel hatred or anger, I think it's more about the pride thing that I already mentioned. And they also want revenge, something that isn't an emotion. It's just logic. Revenge is downright logical. So in this video, I hope I've shown, even if it can't be proven, that the Daleks actually can't feel any emotion, or at very least, the emotion they do show could be something else that gives the appearance of it. Hopefully I'm explaining why they want to kill the Doctor, because he's part of the race that they couldn't defeat, or when they did, they didn't really defeat him. And maybe I should prove to you the real reason the Daleks want to take over the entire universe. Their own goddamn stuck-up pride. Now that's officially the end of the explanation, but if anyone wants to know how this whole idea came about, I once told my Whovian friend that if the Daleks can't feel emotion, then they can't feel anger either, or hatred. He said it didn't matter because the show writers said the Daleks can only feel hatred. Now, I don't know what to say to that, really, but here's what you need to know. Just because the writers say it does not make it the best explanation. You should never take anything the writers say on blind faith unless you think it makes perfect sense. Now, maybe you never thought about it, I can understand that, but it's because of that situation where he told me that I realized it was just pride. 2 years later is when I started making this script. In fact, the conditioning and all the different types of emotion all came as I was writing this script during my research. I couldn't find a single Google result about this, or a theory that's similar. Please tell me, though, was I the first one? Is this a better answer than just a generic, their DNA's been mutated? Is there something in the show I don't know about? I'm sure there's plenty. Or if you just have a different idea, let me know in the comments below. Internet, you can take it from here. I never liked most of the holes in Doctor Who's explanations and stories, but I'd just like to state that I don't hate the series. It's just a lot of things are explained badly, and when I have something that doesn't feel like a good explanation, I always try to point it out or think of a better one. In fact, Doctor Who already has another video on my new show here, but I won't be releasing it anytime soon. And please don't write comments about why can't you turn off your brain while you watch? Because here's the answer. I can't. And if you have to stop thinking to enjoy something, then it's my belief that it's doing it wrong, not the person who's watching. Now, I'm not going to change your opinion about Doctor Who, I know that. I'm not even going to try. Like I said, I don't hate it. But if you enjoy something, shouldn't you want to know how it works? I love Fairy Tail, I love Lord of the Rings, and I love Pokemon. But I can pull them apart and nitpick at things, and I'll find things and I make theories about them. Theories that I haven't seen on the internet. And if anyone thinks that that's doing it wrong, then I'm pretty sure there's about 6 other YouTube theorists going to say I'm not doing it the wrong way. But I'm letting this video run way too long. So I'll leave that link to Gaijin Goombah's video in the description because that's a very important point and it's just the right thing to do. But please, for any of you who don't hate my guts, I'd love to know what you think. As I said before, Internet, you can take it from here. But I'm done here. This is Stealthweasle01, and I'm out.